So it took off exactly at the beginning of the window, and it's the last Ariane 5. So it's the end of an era of 27 years of quite a successful launcher, probably the best launcher during a quarter of a century. But now the rule of the games are changing, probably because it's the last one, and we're expecting a new Ariane 6, which is not ready to fly.
Can you just fill us in on what the Ariane program's been about? Because not everybody's as sort of up to date on these matters as certainly you are. Ariane, I imagine, primarily about bringing satellites into space.
Initially, Ariane 5 was dedicated to try to have some manned launch, to launch astronauts from Europe. Then they gave up because the little program called Hermes was too expensive. So we had the Ariane 5, which was being built, and it was a kind of super Ferrari to launch satellites. At the beginning it didn't work, it had a failure, but then it became a very reliable launcher, very good commercially. Then there was not too much competition, so it was very reliable, was making good money, and the customers were very happy.
It is fantastic to see behind you as you're talking to us the rocket going up into space, because very often with these things we hear things get delayed. Why is that such a sensitive issue? Why does that happen, Fred?
The delays are not an issue. The issue is when when there is an explosion, you lose your whole mission.
Clearly, that is very serious. But it's sort of. I mean, I know extremely little about this, and you're an expert. When you've got a rocket that is so expensive, that is so massive and secure, why does the weather play such a part in whether it takes off or not?
Because it's very sensitive, and for example, it should have been launched 24 hours ago, but there was some wind at high altitude. So when you have high altitude winds, it can disrupt your trajectory and put the rocket at stake. So it's a very fragile thing. It's a kind of controlled explosion where things can go wrong very quickly, and you have only one chance. It's not like your car where you can drive it even if there is several failures. There you lose the mission.
Indeed, and obviously safety is prime ordal, as they say. Sorry, that's a French word, isn't it? Primordial. It's the most important thing, the most important
Absolutely.
thing. Can I just sort of ask you, we've had sort of the Ariane 5, there's going to be Ariane 6. Where does it develop from here? What are the ambitions for this program?
So, even if Ariane 5 was extremely successful, quickly, about 6-7 years ago, the markets have changed and they saw that it was too expensive. Even with 2 satellites on board, this launcher was too expensive. So they had to do something more efficient with Ariane 6 to try to cut the cost by at least 40%. Unfortunately, this Ariane 6 has a lot of delays, 3 years of delay, and the backup rockets, smaller rockets, are not available. The Russian Soyuz is stuck because of the war in Ukraine. It cannot be launched from French Guiana. And the smaller rocket, Vega C, Italian-made, has a failure, and it's not working right now. So hopefully next year, at least the Vega C and Ariane 6 should be ready to go and to start again the business and to give the autonomy of Europe to launch its own satellite. Right now, last week, Europe and European Space Agency had to launch with the main competitor, SpaceX, from Cape Canaveral.
Okay, so if Ariane 6 can't be sort of accelerated and brought online as quickly as possible, what are the possible consequences of that? How will it affect us?
It affects extremely because a lot of satellites are waiting. For example, Galileo is a big network constellation of satellites, but you need new satellites. There is Copernicus, which is a European also network for climate and weather. They need some satellites are waiting. Even military people from different countries like France want to launch, and there is no rocket available. So in that case, when it becomes urgent, you go and you buy from the competitor, which makes the thing even worse.